As a woman over 50, I want my makeup to help me feel more confident. I do feel more confident when I know my makeup looks the way I want it to. There are a lot of things that I'm dealing with now that I didn't deal with at a younger age. My skin is dry. I never had that before. I also have fine lines around the eyes. I have some that go right onto my cheekbone. I have fine lines around my lips. My lips aren't as full as they once were, so that's a change. And my skin is a little bit looser than it was. So every day, actually, I deal with different skin. Some days it's drier than others. So I have come up with some products that work for me that I sort of have in a kit that I keep together for days when I'm just going to work and I want my skin to look really good in real life, look good as I'm talking to people, as I'm meeting people. I just want to feel confident and relaxed, and that's what this does for me. One thing that's so important for looking good in my everyday life, I've learned, is prepping my skin. This has become so much more important as I've gotten older. I know when I was younger, I used to just throw the makeup on and go, but I can't do that anymore. My skin is dry, my lips are drier, so as far as lips, I always prep my lips while I'm doing my makeup with the Beauty Hacks lip mask. And then at the end, when I'm done, I can just wipe it off. My lips will feel very moisturized and I can put on my lipstick for the day. Now also, I'll take my little silicone scrubber just to get off any little loose skin, and I'll go like this. And I find too, I have little lip lines around the lips that I didn't have before. As I'm aging, I never smoked. I don't use a straw much. It's just part of the aging process. So I take this and go above the lip. You know, a lot of people I think would think, at least I did at first, just going on the lip. But I find when I go below the lip, those lip lines sort of plump up. It gets off any little tiny bits of loose skin, maybe skin I can't even see. So now I just leave that because I'm going to wipe it off anyway, and any loose skin will come off before I put my lipstick on. I wake up every day at 4 in the morning, so except for Sundays, and what I do is just wash my face immediately to sort of wake me up, and then I apply all my skincare. I like to give skincare a chance to dry. My makeup applies so much easier, so I go empty the dishwasher, I make my coffee for the day, I pick up things around the house, and then I go back into the bathroom to start applying my makeup. After I've applied my skincare, I put on sunscreen, and right now I'm using the Canmake Mermaid Skin Gel. This has 50++ sunscreen, so let me go ahead and put that on. What I love about this is the luminosity of it. It dries quickly, it gives me a little bit of shimmer on my skin, and it doesn't break out my rosacea. With having rosacea and more mature skin, I'm 56, sunscreen has become even more important than when I was younger. I just feel like sun damage happens more quickly with my skin now, and with rosacea it's very important to wear sunscreen. I do bring it down to the neck, I cover my ears, so I make sure everything is covered really good, and then I let this dry a little bit before I apply my makeup. So I've applied my sunscreen, and now I go on to primer. Primer really helps with redness, the texture I have on my skin. I have so much more texture than I had when I was younger. I have bigger, larger pores in this area and some fine lines. So I love this e.l.f. This is their tone adjusting primer. I do use my fingers for this. I have cleaned my hands really well before I started filming. With everything going on right now, I wash my hands probably 10 times a day. And you can even see under the lights, I'm getting very red. My skin is so reactive. So this tone adjusting primer helps. It also keeps the makeup on my nose. That is my hardest place to keep makeup on. And in real life, I don't want to go up to people and have foundation everywhere and then just a red nose or a nose with no product there. So I find that putting a primer really helps with that. For foundation, I want a sheer coverage where my own skin can peek through a little bit but look better than it normally would without makeup. I also want something that's not going to settle into fine lines during the day. I don't have a lot of time for maintenance and fixing things, so about the only time I have is maybe at my lunchtime to touch up my makeup. So I want to feel confident that it's not settling into those fine lines, that my skin isn't looking dry or cakey. So I have tried so so many foundations, and one that I love, it's a little more costly, but to me it's so worth it because it's got the sunscreen, is the It Bye Bye foundation. This is full coverage moisturizer. It's such a unique product. I really love it. I've been using this off and on for a year now, almost a year. I bought it last October when I broke out terribly with rosacea. So let me just spread this on my clear palette. I like using this. I didn't bring my brush with me that I really like to spread it, but I do like to spread the foundation out on the glass palette and then just pick up a sort of a fluffy brush and dab a little on and then start. And I start in the center of the face and sort of fade out here because that looks a lot more natural and I don't want a line around the jawline, so I do bring this down. This also is one of the only products I can use in my under eye. Some days when my under eye looks great, I don't even use concealer. Most foundations, what I do is just bring it to here and then use concealer in this area because I want one layer of product. I don't want tons of layers on my skin because that is not going to look good up close when people are talking with me or I'm sitting having lunch with a friend or coffee. So I like one thin layer, and this gives beautiful coverage and sun protection. So if I'm not going outside, if I'm just staying inside, then I feel like this sun protection in this product is enough. But if I know I'm going to be driving in the car or doing things where my skin has more sun exposure, then I definitely make sure to have a sunscreen and this. I'm just blending out. And what I do is let it dry a little bit, and then any areas on my nose that are still a little red, I go back and put a little more product there. Always too, I like getting under the nose here. Now, you all have seen me that watch all the time use a sponge for many months because it's the only thing I could use to touch on my skin where I wouldn't get a reaction, a bump, redness, that kind of thing. But my skin is doing so much better right now, thankfully, and I can use a brush again. And then I like to go back and sort of smooth things out with a damp sponge. I find using a primer also, I use less product. So by using that primer, everything goes on more smoothly. I'm going to just get under the eye. And using the glass palette, now I can see really how much product I need. So I tend to not waste product anymore. So having this little palette has saved me a lot of money. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I feel like I need a little more coverage on my nose. So I'm going to go back and put a little bit here. The nice thing about this is it's so buildable. If I see there's an area that's still red, I can go on top of it and it sinks in like moisturizer. It doesn't sit on the surface of the skin like most foundations do. So I find it's very forgiving. Also, if during the day I want to apply a little more on my nose, I can, and it doesn't look cakey or like I've added product. You can't tell. It blends in flawlessly with the rest of the foundation that's still on the face. I feel really good about that. I'm going to get under my eye a little bit better. Now see, I'm looking at it right now, and to just go out now, I wouldn't even apply any concealer. I'm good with this. I was able to get up under the eye. What I love about this is typically if I bring a foundation under the eye, my eye looks 20 years older. It looks very dry. It doesn't look nice at all. But with this, it's like I just added a moisturizer. It's actually sort of smoothing out my fine lines right now. As I'm getting older, I have realized I want a very soft brow, that I was previously putting too much pencil, too many products into my brow, and with deep set eyes, it was making them look even more sunk in, and also my brows almost looked angry. And so what I've come to doing is putting my volume booster. This is a lash primer made for your eyelashes. But what I have a problem with is just fine hair in my brows, not a lot of hair. So I need to thicken what I do have. So I take this first and I go a couple of different directions. I get as much product off the brush as I can so it doesn't glob on. And then I just start lightly brushing through my brows. I go one way, then I go the other way. And I let this dry a little bit, and I can always brush it out with, I have this just a regular spoolie that I can comb through it if I get too much in it. But I find I need to thicken what I've got. I am using castor oil on them right now to try to help them to grow. I've tried a lot of different things, but I have to sort of fake it till you make it with this. So I put this in and let it dry a little bit before I go in with my brow gel and a little bit of pencil. Once the lash primer is dry, I love now that they have these brow gels. This one happens to be the Physicians Formula. I always try to get all the product off. Even such a tiny one like this can have a glob of it on the end. And I start in a spot where I have more hair in case I get a little too much product. So I'm going to start up here on the arch and just bring it out and then brush and also get these lower hairs. There's little tiny hairs I have at the bottom that can make the brows look a lot thicker. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll go back and do it the opposite way. So I brush the hair the way it would grow, then I let it dry, and I will go back the wrong way and sort of fluff up all the hairs so that they're all covered. This way my brows look a lot thicker. So I take my spoolie and just brush through the hair. And if it's a little wet, it's okay because that sort of coats the hairs around it anyway. I look for spots that don't have enough coverage or still look fine and try to even out the brows a little bit. So I take this very inexpensive pencil. It's a couple of dollars from e.l.f. It's their highbrow pencil, and I just go into spots. So I'm going to add a little more to the tail. The tail is what wears off during the day. I find that is my biggest problem, is the tail of the brow. And then I want a little more hair in this area here so it's not just straight up and then arched. That's just the way my brows grow. Or either that or I plucked them that way as a teen. I'm not really sure. So I fill in with the pencil there. What's good about this is it actually has a spoolie right on it. So I just fill in any areas that still look sparse and need a little extra punch. My lids have changed so much over the past few years. I always had oily lids. Now some of the skincare that I use for my rosacea really dries my lids out. So I love this Revolution Prime and Lock. I put an eyeshadow primer on to keep my shadows on during the day. I also like using my Maybelline Instant Age Rewind in either neutralizer or brightener, but this does give a nude shade to it. So if you're having trouble keeping your shadows on, I know some people as they get older actually have more oily eyelids because a lot of you have told me that. So I just blend this out. I bring it into the inner corner because I'm going to put a little brightener there before I'm done. I don't want to look tired, and sometimes I do look tired in real life because I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm working too many hours, so I find that some days my skin looks dull and I do need something to brighten it up. So that's good. Now what I enjoy doing in my real life is a wash of color on the eyes, just something very simple. I can get out the door quickly. There are a few things I could suggest. Some days I use the Maybelline Color Strike. This has just one and done. You take the sponge, apply it on the eye, and you're done. Another thing I do is I take a palette I have like this e.l.f. The New Classics and just go in with a very soft matte shade. Today I'm going to use this shade Truffle, and I'm taking just a really fluffy brush because I want to diffuse it. I want this just a one and done look. So I start on the mobile lid and I just bring it up. I want to let you know that e.l.f. did send me this, which I was really happy about, that they're including the mature community because I've been buying e.l.f. makeup for many years. So that made me really happy that they would send this to me as a mature woman. Usually companies send more things like this to younger YouTubers, so I was really excited about that. What I love about this palette is there's so many shades. I'm going to go in with this. It's cream, and this is also matte, just to blend out the edges of the shadow and bring it up under the brow. This doesn't have any sparkle in it, this shade. For liner, for my everyday, a lot of times I'll just use powder, and since I have this palette, I really like that there's so many shades of neutrals. It makes life so easy. I do like to go under the eye just to give a little more definition. And these are so easy to blend. This palette has become a favorite of mine very quickly. When I do my shadow and I'm just going out or going to work, I don't bring the main color up super high. That doesn't look good in person. I just bring it up where it peaks above the eye, so just a little bit above. And also, I try to really blend the powder along the lash line. You can even take a little Q-tip and just blend it out so it has a smooth, smoky kind of look, and the line doesn't look too solid. I'm about to go out now, and I'm looking at myself, and I still look a little tired. It's Saturday, I've worked all week, and so I'm gonna take this Pro Conceal. It's a yellow corrector, and I'm just gonna tap a little here on my glass palette. And I'm only going to go in where I look dark, which to me is the inner corner of the eyes. I'm actually putting it on my nose on the inner corner, and I'm going to brighten that up a little bit. This is an issue, especially for those of us with deep set eyes. Our eyes go way back, and so a lot of shadows can be cast there. And then someone comes up to you and says, boy, you look really tired. And you're like, well, I am, but I didn't want to look that way. So I'm putting it in the outer corner too. This is an area, and I like to take my brush and go up so it sort of just pulls the eye look up. I do not ever put a lot of concealer or brightener or anything right directly in the center of the eye. If I do anything, I sort of blend it here and then take a little bit that's left on the brush and just lightly dust underneath. This gives enough without adding extra product that's going to look very cakey later in the day. So that's looking better. Now I look like I'm awake. Sometimes I'll take this also just to brighten the nose so that my skin doesn't look all one color, which nobody's skin in real life is all one color. There's a lot of different shades going on the skin. So I find adding a little of this, like above the lip, down the nose, on the chin, just adds a little light and variation to the skin and makes it look more natural like it would for every day. My mascara's on. I just put a light coat over the lashes. I don't want them to look clumpy. I just want them lifted up a little bit, some color on the lashes. My lashes aren't very dark, so adding some black mascara really adds some color. I do prefer black over brown mascara just because my lashes are pretty pale and this makes them stand out a little bit. For blush, I want a dewy look. Powder can really get into fine lines that are around the eyes. I have more of those now as I'm approaching 60. This Physicians formula is amazing. I use it for my lips, my cheeks, my eyes some days. You can just take your finger. I sometimes will take my silicone brush and tap into it, but a lot of you use your finger, so I'm going to do that today. And I keep the blush very high. I could not do the whole apple thing because it makes my face look droopy. So I've always actually worn my blush higher, but I find that with mature skin, it really helps. Cream products, they just look more a part of your skin. So in person, when people are seeing you, they don't see the product on the face. You just have a nice rosy glow to the skin. What I like about this, because I've used this product for so long, is as the day goes on and I have more oil in my skin, it looks even more beautiful. It sinks in deeper and yet has enough pigment to last all day. I found on my own skin that highlighters, if I'm using a powder, can look really good sometimes in one direction and then right in the lines in the other direction. So I've fallen in love with cream highlighters. I really like to mix them in foundation or apply under the skin, but today I'm just going to tap it on top. And again, I put a small amount on the glass palette, that way I can see. And after using these products so long, I really have a great idea of how much I need. And I will just spread it out, get it really thin here, thin on my finger, and then I'm just going to tap right sort of where my blush is ending, right on the cheekbone. Now again, this is one of those that as the day goes on and my skin gets a little more moisture in it from the humidity just being outside, it looks even more beautiful, and this really does last all day. Now, another thing I like to do sometimes is take a little of this and tap it on my lid. So this way I get some shimmer without a shimmer shadow, which would be much thicker. This is just as thin as water pretty much. because I'm using so little, just tapping it in. This gives a little bit of luminosity when someone's looking at me and my face is turning. The light is catching it, but there's no heavy product on my lid. If I find my under eyes look dry during the day, I take this Queen Bee Peeper Keeper, put a little bit on my finger, and just tap. Very little product. It sort of reactivates whatever I've already put on. This way I'm not putting another layer underneath my skin. It gives luminosity. You could also add this to the cheeks if you feel the cheeks, because of lines here or crow's feet, look dry. I just add a little moisture with this, and it really helps. Also, what I love for this is above the lips. So for those lip lines, those fine little lip lines during the day, I sometimes see the skin tightening up and see the lines a little more pronounced. So this is perfect for underneath the lips. In person, my lips can look really bad if the lines are very pronounced in the actual lip itself. As I've gotten older, my lips aren't as smooth. The lines on the lips are much more noticeable. So that's why I always like the lip mask on top to moisturize while I'm applying the makeup. I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off now. Also, as I'm aging, I've lost some volume in my lips. So I always use a lip liner, even in person, because I find that my lips look so much smaller if I don't line them. And of course, I love this inexpensive one from LA Girl. They actually, this week, we're having it on sale for $2.99. I don't know when I put this video up if it will be on sale, but Ulta runs a lot of sales on these. So I'm going to go I make like a little X here. That helps me to stay on the line. I go a little above the ridge of my lip. I don't severely overline them because in person that would look terrible, but I go right on top of the ridge of the lip. I take my finger and sort of smooth out the line that I've just made. I actually love using my brush. I don't have it with me right now, so I'm just going to use my finger. That's what I would do in a pinch. I want a lipstick that's moisturizing, that will stay. I have gone back to this, the Revlon Balm Stain. I'm finding that with wearing a mask, it's so difficult to keep any lipstick on. This is so moisturizing and stains your lips, so that's fantastic. I just want a light dusting of powder on my skin just to hold everything in place. Also, I find this powder from number 7 really blurs my skin and makes the area, especially here around my pores, look so much nicer, where I have larger pores in my skin from years of acne and just oily skin and issues. For under the eye, I take the number 7, go in with a pointed brush, and just like I'm lining underneath the eyes. This helps the makeup to stay on so well all day. Also the inner corner where I put the brightener, the concealer, to blend all that out. And with what's left, since I look very shiny in the under eye area, I'm just going to stamp a little bit. When you're using so many moisturizers, sometimes the skin can appear to look sort of a greasy look, and I don't want that. So anywhere I look a little too shiny, I like even this brush for doing the sides of my nose. I can really get in there. That's an area I miss sometimes. The winner of last week's giveaway is in the first pinned comment. Also, I want to thank you so much for shopping my Amazon store and using my links. Everything I've used today is listed in the Show More section underneath my video. Now on to this week's giveaway. So many of you love the bee venom face mask. It's very hard to find anymore. I have one of those and also one of my favorite palettes from Milani. If you'll just leave me a comment below, then you'll be entered in the giveaway. Thank you for the thumbs up, for subscribing to my channel. I appreciate you so much. Have a beautiful week.